Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. I am Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton. Today to talk about a little bit of Wednesday's slate, but mostly to preview Thursday's slate. Ethan, I believe it was the first time since we've been doing these videos that a losing team finished as the highest scoring one on the slate. We talked yesterday all about that E-Star Thunder Talk matchup, and that Thunder Talk was going to be such a big popular underdog pick because we thought they would win. They did win, and you were dead today unless you had a long E-Star stack. Like, it seems like the only thing that we haven't checked off on the ridiculous things that have happened this season, and now at least we have that down for us.
Yeah, well, we said that might be a sloppy back and forth series, right? So sort of could see play in either side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, basically E-Star through game one. They should have won game one, and then they stomped in game two, and that would have been a sweep right there. So really they should have won. They threw away game one, and then they dropped game three, and all of a sudden they lose the series that they probably should have won. But it didn't matter for DFS, I guess. It did matter to me because, well, to be honest, man, I didn't play either side. I kept staring at that and thinking, like, which side of this do I really want to be on, and couldn't really come to a decision. So, yeah, it's funny. Normally, we're very rare that we see a losing team put up the most amount of points. But, yeah, add it to the list, right?
It's not that Thunder Talk scored poorly, but, like, it was the E-Star scores are crazy. Like,
yep.
Rat 134, Irma 105. Like, in a loss, it's just nuts to see scores like that.
Yep.
So we talked how, like, everybody was going to be on, or everybody would want to be on JDG because they were such big favorites. And I think we had, like, the classic situation of they were so big that they didn't have to do a whole lot. And so, like, their scores ended up being not that great. Like, I had a JDG E-Star lineup, and I'm like, all right, this could do something. And JDG it wasn't nearly enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, they just didn't need to put up high kill totals, which was our question for them yesterday, right? Like, we kind of pondered, are they really going to need to put up over 20 kills a game, or are they going to be more in the mid to low teens? And that's where they ended up. You still got the games not played bonus, but it's just, even they just didn't put up good individual scores, in that series. So, that was a little bit of a bummer, especially because, our Rogue Warriors, they can cough up some pretty high death totals, but JDG just, they didn't need to really scrap it out to win. They just kind of cleanly did it.
Yeah. It's funny, I opened up the DraftKings app at some point to check scores, and they had shown that Rogue Warriors won game one. And I was like, oh my, like, I didn't check the actual scores before that. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the Rogue Warriors slate where I miss out.
Right.
Turns out, no, it's just still,
Nope.
Rogue Warriors are still terrible.
Yep, you were safe, man.
We did have a few lineup issues just in terms of guys coming in that we weren't expecting. We were talking about this just before we started recording, that, like, not that you needed a Rogue Warriors support, but whoever started there wasn't you couldn't roster one because
Chocho. Yeah,
Chocho was moved to an AD carry after starting there once.
He played AD carry last series,
right.
So DK put him there in the slate or in the player pool, and then he was back to support today. So.
Right. And then who was it? The mid laner from Gen G came out of nowhere. We talked about the Minimax yesterday. He was completely unowned in the Minimax. LCK late games, man, just got to stay away, I guess.
Play them at your own risk. That's
I mean,
for sure.
The worst part is that, like, that wasn't one that we would normally worry about. This wasn't T1. Like, Gen G, they were fairly fine, and then I don't know. And DRX switched up too, didn't they? I thought DRX maybe didn't.
I don't think they did. I'm looking back through, but yeah, when I typed up the notes, it was their
okay.
They played their normal starting lineup.
I guess I mixed. Maybe I saw an old
Yosik, Solka, Bao, Becca.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they played all three games.
Maybe my score app had an old handle. Anyway,
Yeah.
But like other than E-Star, the scores weren't even really that great. Like
No.
it would have been a fairly low scoring slate if you hadn't gotten 200 out of a captain spot from Rat. So
Yeah, right. Out of a losing 80 carry. Yeah,
right.
so that was weird. It was a weird slate in that sense for sure.
I am willing to say that this is not a strategy I'm going to start using. Of like, it doesn't matter if they win or lose. Like as long as it's, yeah, I don't know. I think the good thing is that at least allows us to still target Thunder Talk because we're like, oh, you can still score well if they don't do anything. So
2-game winning streak, right? So
hottest team in League of Legends, right there.
yeah, exactly.
All right, looking at the Thursday slate, we've got one gigantic favorite, Invictus Gaming against OMG. We've got my boys FPX, decent favorites against LNG, and then we've got the two LCK games or series, KT against video favorite Fred Brion, and HLE favorite against Afrika. I immediately was like, okay, this is going to be the IG disappointment slate because, man, they are such huge favorites, and it's like, but against OMG, like, oh man, you gotta just play them. Not cheap though.
No, it's hard to imagine that they do anything other than 2-0
Yeah.
tomorrow, honestly. Just, we do know IG are disappointing at times, but man, this OMG team is, one of the worst in the league by far. So
Really
it's
bad.
really hard to imagine IG, dropping the series. Could they drop a game, and would that shock us? No, I guess not. But I would expect it 2-0, and yeah, they're priced up. But we understand why, right? I mean, not only are they in a really good matchup, they're always going to be one of the teams, that we look to because their ceilings are just so high at all times. I mean, they love to fight. I mean, look no further than their last series, right, where I think they got a sweep with 56 kills. I mean,
Not bad.
so they have that kind of upside on any given slate, really. I mean, that slate they played Rogue Warriors when they put up 56, and OMG really aren't that much better of a team. So they could come out with some pretty lofty kill totals tomorrow in a sweep, and that's a pretty good place to look when you're starting to build your lineups. I think that's easiest matchup and team with arguably the team with the most upside that we talk about on any slate. So
Yeah, I will say so. Invictus Gaming third highest kills per game. OMG most deaths. So like as simple as that. I will say that IG feels like a team that you might be able to get away with wanting them to be 2-1 because of the extra game. That like the games not played bonus might actually be lower than what they could do if they just absolutely blow out.
yeah, that's
in the
fair.
third game.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So I'm almost
That's
like
a fair point because even when they're behind, they're not afraid to scrap it out.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point for sure.
So of course they'll sweep in a low scoring one and a low kill one tomorrow. But I feel like ever since I finally was like, okay, I want to play Hand While Life because they're good. They get a lot of kills. They've been like super disappointing since then, and
Yeah.
it's like I was like, all right, let me see if I can do IG HLE, and then I was already counting my winnings. But it just doesn't seem like I almost feel like people might actually be targeting Afrika just because they're at least the most expensive underdog. But like underdog wise, we've got some awful options here.
Right. Yeah, I can't hate on Afrika as much as I have in the past, I guess, because they've been playing quite a bit better. But yeah, I think they're definitely the most viable underdog on this slate. Depending on how people feel about that KT Frederick Brion series, because we don't like Frederick Brion, but KT have been playing pretty poorly, so
That's fair.
that could be a potential place to look. I probably don't end up there, to be honest. Just still don't think that Frederick Brion team is very good, and although KT have been playing poorly, I think that they're still the better team in this matchup. So I might not play KT, but I also probably won't play Frederick Brion as an underdog. So yeah, Afrika, I I still don't really like them that much, but it's getting harder and harder to be negative towards them because they've been playing better. I don't know. Looking at that series, it's a tough one. I think I still give the edge to HLE. I think I'd rather be on that side of the matchup. And, in some of the roles, HLE really aren't priced that prohibitively. So you can get a little bit of savings on them for being a favored team in a couple of roles anyway. Not they're towards the top in most, but like Deft is near the bottom of the favorite scale. I think he's the cheapest favorite in the 80 carry role. So, yeah, I mean, I still think HLE win. Do they put up the kill totals that we want to see? I'm not sure. Does it go 2-1 and maybe it's a low-scoring affair? I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be the bummer when that happens.
Right.
So do you think that FPX can score enough on LNG to outweigh the expected points from IG? Like, IG just feels like if they're going to win, they're going to just blow them out. And so
Right.
Can FPX keep up against LNG?
I think they definitely can, but it's definitely a much harder matchup too. So that could work one of two ways, I guess. I mean, it could be a more back and forth type deal where they need to put up closer to 20 plus kills a game. And FPX are a team that like to fight too, right? So
Yeah.
they play this lane dominant style with a jungler who, as we saw last time they played, can take over a series depending on what's going on, even though he's still pretty new to the league. So yeah, I mean, FPX definitely have ceiling in any matchup that they're in. I lean towards IG, and the only real reason is because OMG are just a much worse team, giving up a lot more kills. Like, I still think I'd be surprised like if FPX even drop a game. I think they're going to sweep probably. But I wonder, like, it's just how I always kind of view these slates. It's like LNG are better than OMG, but FPX are better than IG. So it's kind of like a wash in that sense. But yeah, wouldn't surprise either of us. I don't think if FPX are the highest scoring team tomorrow either, because that we've seen it. They love to fight. They're a really good team, obviously. So yeah, I mean, I can't fault anybody for wanting to go the FPX route. You do get, depending on the role, they're a little spread out, but you get a little bit of salary savings in some of the roles by going to FPX. You get a little bit of salary savings in some of the role by going to IG. So it just really depends on how people feel. I just feel like IG probably stomps, and they're not a team who just plays at like a slow pace, even in these one-sided matchups. So that's kind of why I'm leaning in their direction as expecting them to be the highest scoring team, but certainly wouldn't surprise me if it was FPX.
So LNG have the fewest deaths per game on the slate.
Yep.
Which is like a decent margin, which is kind of disappointing, at least from the FPX standpoint.
Right.
Like 15 deaths. I guess they beat E-Star, but like, I guess their record's much better than I'm giving them credit for. Maybe that's why it's so low.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
they've proven to be a pretty solid team,
Yeah.
right? So, but it's just kind of like FPX is one of the teams that we think might be a little bit of a too tall of a mountain for them to topple. So but that's sort of why I think IG are the team that put up the highest kill totals and just smashed 2-0 because OMG are a bad team, where LNG are actually a pretty decent team that look like they're going to be fighting it out for a playoff spot in China. So FPX had the tougher matchup, but they're a good enough team that they could come out and smash 2-0 and put up the highest amount of points, no problem.
I think that's a good way to put it. That like LNG beat Invictus Gaming to start the season, swept them,
Yep.
but like we've always said that about IG, that like against like decent teams, anything can happen. They'll probably smash the terrible teams, but it's like the non-terrible ones where like any IG can show up. But on this slate, IG's playing a terrible team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm not like, they've trolled in the past and lost series like this. Like, it wouldn't be a shock that if they lost just because they've done it in their past. But I'd be pretty damn surprised if they lost. And I don't even see them losing a game. I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to imagine as bad as OMG have been. Even though IG likes to troll, it's just I can't really see them falling tomorrow. It's tough to imagine.
So, I mean, you can't play IG and FPX. So, where do you think people? I assume it feels a little bit like today with JDG. Like IG is today's JDG. Um, so, who
But
do you
with a
think
much
people
higher
actually?
ceiling.
What's that?
Much higher ceiling on IG though. I would say, because even though even when JDG were one of the best teams last year, and they made the finals in both splits last year, they're not a team like IG that really pushes the pace historically. So even though JDG might have been the better team or whatever, IG come in any matchup pretty much with a higher ceiling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, who do you think people pair them with?
I wonder. I don't know. I mean, do people go double support and jam in the two LPL favorites? You can
Gross.
do a couple like wonky things where you don't stack two teams, but you can still get a lot of favorites, and just use a couple players from teams that are offering a little more salary savings, and you can end up with a lineup that gives you double jungle, and then but you have players from three of the big
Three of the
favorites.
favorites.
I don't always love doing that because you're asking for a lot to go right. Basically, you need three different teams to smash instead of just two teams to smash. Basically, but on tomorrow's slate, it could be a viable option. I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. Like, I'm not for playing double support, so I won't be going there. I mean, do people take a punt on, like, the Brion team slot, maybe? It's pretty cheap, 4,400. That could be a potential way people look. Do people punt on a top lane spot to do some salary savings to try to jam in favorites? Maybe we'll see some of that as well.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, obviously the HLE Africa is the closest, so theoretically that one can go three, and then if you get a one off from there, then maybe you get enough points. Although we were just saying we probably think that's the lowest of the of the four on the slate. So
It's hard though because we brought up Deft, like he offers some salary savings at 80 carry, but is he going to match the scores of like an LWX or a Wink? Probably not. I'd be surprised, if he put up as high of point totals as they do tomorrow. So yeah, you're getting some salary savings and you can jam in three favorites maybe, but you're giving up some upside as well. So it's just a decision, people are going to have to make. We've seen HLE take over slates before though, so it's not out of the question. But it would be a little bit, of a surprise, I think, to both of us if they ended up as the highest scoring team tomorrow. We've seen it happen, but especially IG are just in such a great spot to put up points that it's hard to imagine. And then, FPX, maybe that series ends up being lower scoring, but I think we could say the same about HLE Africa. So, it's kind of tough. It makes it a little bit of a challenge because if you go for salary savings with HLE in certain spots, you're giving up some upside on other guys. So,
not to say that they're all comparable just because they were the bigger favorite. I mentioned yesterday that JDG's kill prop was one of the highest I've ever seen, and that spans all the way back to 3 weeks ago. Yeah, not even a month. IG's is the same as JDG's yesterday. I mean, so odds-wise, they kind of line up exactly the same. Obviously, that doesn't imply anything that that the results will be the same, but kind of the expectations are in line, which is kind of what we see price-wise anyway.
Yeah, I'd feel a lot better about IG hitting that they're over in kills than I would about JDG though.
That's fair.
Yeah, so we've paid the least amount of lip service to that KT Fred at Brion series, so I think we can all expect that one to be the one that blows out tomorrow, right?
But like, even if you think it blows out, there's no way you're playing Fred at Brion, right?
I think some people might just because KT have been so bad, and it's a way you're going to be able to jam in like IG long stack probably. So yeah, you might see some of that in multi-entry. I'm not touching them because I don't play enough lineups, but that's just me.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely do IG Brion. Like that's easy.
I mean, I'm not here to like push that on anybody. I'm not going there, but I think we'll see it in lineups, right? Just because KT haven't really been very good lately, and opens up a lot of salary savings if you go the Fred at Brion route, and probably at low ownership. So
yeah, the best thing about that game is that it's the late LCK one, so nothing possibly could go wrong targeting that game.
no, definitely not. I mean, I will say this: I don't think Fred and Breon have any backups. Well, only in the jungle role. So, yeah, actually, that would be the tricky spot. So just don't play their jungler if you go Fred and Breon.
Right.
Just go, go one of the carries and then captain an IG carry and build your stacks out from there.
Right. Right. Oof. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
You guys, if you guys have enjoyed the video, if you could please hit the like button below. You can also subscribe for all of the RotoWire videos, which you can find kind of below, or it's up there somewhere on the screen. There's also a bell feature to get notifications whenever new videos pop up. We're doing these every day as long as there's a LPL slate, so we'll keep doing those. If you want to try out RotoWire, just go to rotowire.com/pod. Gets you 10 free days to the site, no credit card required. Gets you access to our subscriber Discord as well, where there's plenty more League of Legends chatter to get you ready for the slates. So, Ethan, thank you for that, and good luck on Thursday.
All right, same to you, Andrew.